Hello, everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile, an organization that is built for women to come together, to support each other, to offer to each other, and to seek from each other, something that we have not been doing very well. This organization was founded in 2018 and since grown to several spirals, the groups of women who come together, several spirals across the globe, and we are still growing. It's a completely volunteer-based, not-for-profit organization, and with again the intention to bring the stories from the women, the fantastic women that we know. In 2019, we launched an initiative called LIA100, Lean and Agile 100, an initiative to bring 100 stories from 100 amazing women who have been making strides in this space, who have been inching towards success, but also stood up the test of time and test of challenges. So the intention with this initiative is to bring those stories and their challenges and how they have overcome and stood the test of time to you all. So with an intention that it could inspire anybody out there, and that would be a success for our organization. So here we are with Helen Meek. Welcome, Helen, to this show. Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. It's amazing to get the opportunity to do something to support the community.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure and honor to have you, Helen. Let me introduce you. So a few words about Helen here. Helen is the founder of a couple of user groups, Agile Coaching Exchange and Kanban Coaching Exchange. She's an active public speaker at various conferences and meetup groups. She was the organizer for the first ever European Scrum Alliance coaching retreat in 2014, and also its follow-up session in 2018. Helen is very authentic. She's an authentic coach with many years of real practical experiences. And I love the way she put this. She is a survivor of several war wounds from her own Agile journey. And we are going to go a little bit deeper into that when we talk. Helen is a great believer of sharing her knowledge and encouraging others to do the same. And she enjoys growing the Agile and Kanban communities around her. She's an accredited Kanban trainer with Kanban University, and she runs regular classes. She has a holistic approach to coaching, operating with individual team members, whole teams, leadership layers, managers, and executives across technical and non-technical departments. So Helen, welcome again.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you here with such rich experience and perspectives. I'm sure your insights will benefit our community at large. So let me begin by asking you, how did you come into this Agile world? And also tell us a little bit about the challenges in that journey. And most importantly, how did you overcome those challenges?
Mm-hmm. So I kind of started my journey way back when, at the time I was working for a company called Aviva in Norwich, because that's where I live for, an insurance company. And they were again embarking on their kind of sort of transformation, if you like, because they wanted to improve their ways of working. So I got selected to be one of the people that was going to help them evolve. And through that, I kind of got to meet some really great people. And there was one lady, so it's on theme. There was a lady there called Margaret Morgan, and she was the person who helped me to kind of kickstart my journey off in the Agile world. I call her my Agile Yoda, and I still kind of speak to her today. She's an amazing woman. But she was the one who kind of taught me everything that she knew and kind of helped me to start coaching, and she also got me into training. So I started off doing Scrum training. And it was through that kind of consultancy that I also met other great coaches such as Mark Summers, again, who I'm still friends with 10 years later. I do a lot of work with him. And I even kind of touched base with Carl Scotland. So he was, I remember him originally trying to talk to me about what Kanban was. And many years later, here I am kind of representing that community today. So I was very privileged, if you like, in I had some really great people that helped kickstart me off in my early career, and I worked with them for a further 3 years at Aviva before I decided that there was other opportunities that I wanted to pursue. And I then joined a company called Ripple Rock, who I still work with today, a fabulous company. I call it my family, if you like. And I kind of started consulting, coaching, and training at that point, still predominantly in the Scrum kind of ways of working. And today I'm kind of a director within that organization. So throughout that, I had real sort of key markers in my kind of career. I moved from Scrum predominantly more to more Kanban ways of thinking. And I was literally just speaking to him before this call, but I kind of like said to Dan Brown, also known as Kanban Dan, you had a big part in my influence and life, and he got me into Kanban, and he was the one who pushed me into kind of like becoming a trainer and supported me and done lots of co-trainings with me. And I still love it when we do training together today. So it's good to like keep those people that supported you in the past.
Lovely.
And it's because of all of these people that's kind of made me be the person who I am, in terms of I want to give back to the community. And I was really lucky, but not everybody is. And so that's why I kicked off the Kanban Coaching Exchange with Dan Brown, and the Agile Coaching Exchange, originally with several people, Mark Summers, Ed Scotcher and such, and now I kind of run it with a guy called Vlad and Ben Cook out there. And for me, that's about creating an opportunity for people to learn and have access to coaches and get great speaking in a free environment that's open to anybody. And so my kind of journey has always been, learn lots about what you do, spread lots of good word through meetup groups, give back, because good stuff will kind of like happen to you, won't it? What kind of challenges have I had on the way? You always kind of meet difficult organizations, but I've worked out that I consulted in 50 different companies, so quite a few, a real wide range, from ambulance service to vending machines, retail, insurance, a whole heap. Um, and I think each one of these different organizations gives you different challenges and different perspectives. And it's kind of what makes you to be the coach that you are today, in their own kind of
Right.
unique way. Some good, some bad.
Sure.
That's just the way of the world, isn't it? So just really great people, great experiences, working with lots of different companies, the autonomy and freedom to be able to try things. And if I fail, I fail.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about my journey.
Yeah.
It's,
No,
it's,
that's
it's like
fantastic.
10 years condensed into a paragraph.
Yeah. It's always hard to condense it to, a few minutes, right? But I think, you gave a good picture of how you started and who you collaborated with and who you look up to and how you actually brought that into the community. So that was a pretty well put background. Thank you for that, Helen. So you mentioned about the user groups and giving back to the community, right? That's a very close tying there. In my experience, I have always seen women who are exceptionally bright, who are very, very willing to give back to the community. But there is always an apprehension, right? To even design a model or a framework to give back. And there are different reasons for that, why they're not forthcoming to give back to the community. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, what inspired you to, found those groups, and why is it important to give back?
Um, so I'll tackle the first one first. Why is it important to give back? Because everybody deserves an opportunity to learn, and people want to learn, and people want to be able to have feedback. And that's something that's important to me, and that I've had all the way throughout my career. And not everybody can afford to have coaches within organizations. And so it's about creating a learning environment where people can come and seek that knowledge for themselves. it's also about community. You know, the Agile world, even though it may seem big, it's actually really quite small.
Mhm.
And you can build some really strong friendships, and we see a lot of regulars coming back to our group. And so it's about creating those kind of systems where you can support each other when you need knowledge on an engagement, or maybe due to COVID, you've lost your job and there's an opportunity to reach out and see if there's other opportunities in different areas, the things that you were talking about as well. It's about creating a place where if somebody gets stuck, they can just like LinkedIn you and then say, well, what about this question? What about this? So it's about being open and sharing, and just being a good citizen, giving people the kind of the kind of help and attention that that they might need. And I don't kind of know where that kind of drive came from in me, but it makes you feel good as well when you help people and you can kind of make their life a little bit easier. And so I kind of find real enjoyment from helping people kind of like grow. um, and I've been doing these groups now for not on my own for about 8 years. So it's something that I find continually rewarding. And every time I think about is it time to step back, I'm kind of like, no, because I'll meet somebody at one of these sessions and they'll
Yeah.
tell me the impact it's had on their life. And I kind of think, no, I must keep going. Um, and coming up with the ideas or having the kind of the impetus to go and do these things, I've always been a little bit kind of extrovert and out there. And so it can be a bit scary doing stuff on your own. And that's why I kind of collaborated with these groups with people, and we all bring different dimensions. And I think that's important. And it brings diversity in itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Um, so I've always just been one of those people that throw yourself out there and see what happens, and people will soon let you know how they feel, won't they?
Yeah. No, I think one commonality that I found in my conversations through LIA100 with people, and I always ask this question, right? How did you get started? And, what were the inhibitions? Most of them said, put yourself out there. What do you have to lose, right? Worst case scenario, it might not work out, but at least you have tried. So I think, it's very aligned, what you just said. But thank you for sharing that. I think, key takeaways from that are, put yourself out there, right? First of all, and you can't do it all alone. So collaborate with other groups, and that's diversity right there. So that group work and co-creation is so much more valuable and impressive than doing it alone.
And also having that forum where, like, stuff sometimes happens to me, maybe you receive bad feedback, or somebody said something to upset you. By surrounding yourself with great people, then what you can do is you can kind of like then coach off of each other, and you can build each other up, and that helps support you and gives you that motivation to drive forward.
Yeah,
And so I think another thing for me is that being able to build each other up and help each other get the best out of things, in order to be able to succeed. And that's why I've got all of these great people around me. Literally Kanban Dan was doing that to me like 10 minutes ago. And that's again motivates me to be that person for other people.
absolutely, absolutely. That's fantastic. In fact, that brings me to the next concept, right? So you were the organizer of the first ever European Scrum Alliance coaching retreat. And
I was one of a team. I can't take full credit over. There was
okay,
several of us
you're
that did
part of
it.
the organizer team, right?
Yes, yeah.
And again, we talked about community building being so important, and we certainly want more women in that space, right? Of organizing, participating, speaking, just being out there in that space. Tell us a little bit about you being a woman, yourself. What was your observation of the women participating and their willingness to put themselves out there for speaking or participation? What was it like?
I think if you kind of have a female as part of the organising committee, it does give a different view and a different dimension to people attending it and getting involved. There's also kind of like a bit of a sisterhood, if you're going to these sessions, then you're going to go and speak to the women and make sure that they're getting the things that they need, as well as the men. It works
Yeah.
works all ways. Um, but I think it's encouraging to see. other women at groups and empowering them to be able to feel okay to say the things that they need to do or to say when it's not okay. And I think women can bounce off each other and support each other in those types of environments. And I see lots of groups like the Scrum event meetup group, they had hosted a whole year where they had nothing but women speakers, and I was one of them. And I always have this moment like, well, did they just pick me because I'm a woman, or did they pick me because I was awesome? But there's real strives, and it's through events like that really helps people kind of put to the forefront, and create an environment where women feel empowered to be able to speak and go out there and air their views. And I think we did have lots of women at that first kind of like Scrum coaching retreat, and there's some great women out there in the Agile industry. And I think it's that support group that helps us to keep bringing more women in, and just seeing other women talk about things on stage and thinking, I can do that. And if I see women who want to do that thing, then I will help them to be able to achieve that no matter what is holding them back.
Right.
So there's definitely more opportunity now than ever for women to get involved in these events.
Yeah, no, that's a great message. And thank you for pointing that out, right, Helen, that if you see another woman on the stage, there's more encouragement of, yeah, I can be there too, right? If she can do it, I might be able to do it. Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your war wounds. I was very intrigued by that.
War wounds, these are the things that kind of like happen to us all. This could be for I'll talk about one of the first ones. The biggest war wound that helped shape my kind of coaching career is after I left Aviva, I went to one of my kind of like oldest and one of my most favorite clients, ASOS. And when I kind of first did my first engagement there, I was so excited and so happy to be part of it. I kind of became really entrenched into their ways of working. And it was then when I left that organization, you realize that sometimes you become quite pivotal to it. And when you then leave, stuff around you sort of like stops happening, or people don't understand or have the same amount of passion that you had. And so one of my very first learnings from my first ever consultancy gig was don't put yourself in the middle of it. You have to be able to coach through others and drive change through others, and they have to see the value for that for yourselves. And so I'm so glad that happened on literally my first one, because that shaped me to be the coach that I am today, to not do that, to not be that central person, do enough to give inspiration and passion and show them how it's done, but know when to step back and let them drive forward, to be able to then maintain those results. So that was kind of like probably one of my first war wounds. Another one, you can't be something that you're not. You're not going to please absolutely everybody through your presence, your honesty, and how you work with them. And another one of my kind of like early clients, they were trying to get me to be more of a kind of project manager, and that's not who I was, and
Right.
that's not what I was interested in anymore. I used to be a project manager, but sometimes you have to accept that maybe you're not the right person for some of those engagements. And so that kind of made me think about who am I, what brand is kind of like Helen, and what it is that I want to portray and how I want to be with people. So that again shaped me as kind of knowing what my style of ways of working was, and I could only be but honest.
Yeah.
So it's there's key pivotal things like this that kind of like kicked me off, and got me to be where I am today.
Oh, that's fantastic, right? That's how our personalities and capabilities are shaped. So thanks for sharing those.
I
So,
can tell you other ways that have failed as well. There's probably a whole wall that I could, but they're probably the ones that marked me the most.
yeah, and also I think, most of our learnings come from those wounds as well, right? You know what to do and what not to do in the next gig or in the next chapter of your career. So I think, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing them. That's being vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
So thank you. Um, I wanted to ask you, so you're a trainer, you train whole teams, you train leaders, you train executives. In that journey, along with your coaching experience, right? You've been in the organizations, immersed in the organizations. What are some of the patterns, organizational patterns that you have observed as a commonality across your clients? The reason I'm asking that is, it's often challenging for a woman to break through certain layers, right, than a man, right? I think all of us have seen that for various reasons. So, in the patterns that you have observed, please tell us how a woman can kind of strategize or put herself out there for, to serve the organization better.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to give you a really radical answer here, but I've never felt that kind of in my training side of the part of the work that I do. I've never felt inhibited by being a woman at all. And I never even really think about it because I can do what anybody else can do, and I've got good skills and I've got good experiences. And so I've never really let that define me. And so for me, my work is mainly focused around what do we want to be able to achieve organizationally? What are the goals that we're going to do? How are we going to get there? And what impact can I have on people's lives as part of that change? And so I've never kind of seen any patterns or reoccurring things which has made me feel as if I've not had the opportunities to kind of like step out there. I do typically see lots of men on my training courses. I'm still looking for that time when I have a whole class literally full of women. That would be absolutely amazing. But you are seeing more and more diversity through these classes as kind of like time goes on. And I think that's because organizations are consciously thinking about how can they recruit more women into the organization. And it's not just women, it's different ethnicities as well, isn't it? It's a whole range of things. And so I don't think I've ever been inhibited by being a woman, I have to admit. Or if there have been, I've been completely oblivious to it.
Which is good, right? That means
I've
you've
got a
not
mission and I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Because that's another aspect that we want to hear more, right? That you're not being overwhelmed or discriminated or inhibited. So that's a fantastic way to look at it, right? So thank you for sharing that. And as we wrap up, Helen, is there a message or some kind of a phrase that you would like to share with us as we conclude the interview? Something that you live by, something that you believe in that's been driving you. I can't hear you, certainly.
So what would my message be? And people probably hear me say this all the time, and it's do good things and good things will happen to you. And I truly believe that. Be it somebody reaches out to you on LinkedIn and you have a conversation with them and you give them an hour of your time. 2 years later, that thing could turn into something else. And that's happened to me several times. I don't do those good initial acts of kindness because I expect something to happen in the future. I do it because I'm a giving kind of person and I want to help people as much as I can. And I truly believe that, if I help you, then pay it forward, help somebody else, because this is what's going to make us a stronger community.
Yeah.
It's going to help us to stick together, and it's how we're going to learn. So do good things and good things will happen to you.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Helen. I think that paid forward in community building is so important now than ever, in the crisis times that we are living in right now. Thank you so much, Helen. I think that was a fantastic conversation, and I'm sure our audience will gain so much by listening to you and your experiences. Thanks for coming, and this is kind of a paid forward you're doing, for a stronger community out there. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
No, thanks for having me, and hopefully, there's something here that will help somebody along the lines. And with all of your listeners, if they want to reach out and talk to me, then I'm always here. They just have to pay it forward.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.